welcome back to Properly Freelance. It's Jenny Elborn, and today I'm going to be talking about freelancing and parenting, which I have no experience of. So it's really great that I'm joined by somebody who does have experience of that. Welcome to Frankie Tortora.
Hello.
Hello. Thank you so much for having this chat with me. It's basically going to consist of me firing questions at you as to how one goes about being a freelance parent, because it's
my specialist subject.
Your specialist subject, yeah. It's unlike most of the other podcast episodes that I've made because I'm not a parent, but it's something that I would like to be able to do. I would like to be able to have a family, and I think a lot about how on earth that would work.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm looking forward to quizzing you about how that happens. But before quizzing you about parenting, can I quiz you a little bit about freelancing and what you do, and not start off by defining you as a mum?
More than a mother.
Because you're more than a mother.
Yeah.
What do you do as a freelancer?
So I'm a graphic designer. I've been doing that. This is my, where are we now? March? No, April possibly.
I don't know when it's going out, but it's fine.
This will be my 7th financial year as a graphic designer.
Cool.
I started doing that for a couple of reasons. One of which was that I was working in a job where I was facilitating other people's creativity, and it was quite frustrating. I did music at university. I'm a creative person, come from a creative family, and I somehow got on this job where I was kind of doing arts administration type stuff.
Oh, I've been there.
Yeah, and giving funding to other people to do cool projects, which is fine, and I enjoyed that job, but it was increasingly frustrating.
Yeah,
and despite having no design on my job description, I seemed to be magically doing graphic design in that job, all the time, because clearly I was passionate about it.
Yeah.
And then that coincided with my department moving and me being made redundant, or taking voluntary redundancy. I'd only been there 3 years, so it wasn't like crazy money or anything, but it was enough to support me,
give
me that buffer. Yeah. Gave me the financial confidence to take a risk.
Sure.
And the lead up to that, so I knew I was going to be made redundant, so the 9 months before that, I was doing a night course in graphic design while doing my job, and then I left, used that money, and then used that as a buffer to get clients and
brilliant stuff. And do you do a particular type of graphic design, or specialise in anything?
Increasingly, yes. If you'd asked me that 5 years ago, I'd be like, oh, I do all the things. I don't.
You've narrowed it down.
Yeah, definitely. I don't do web design anymore. If you want a website, you don't come to me. I do digital design, so I'll do social media imagery, and I do interactive PDFs and stuff like that. But I don't design and build websites anymore. But yeah, and increasingly it's not just I do print, it's I do a very specific type of design.
Sure.
Which, if you go to my website, is hopefully quite obvious now.
Give your website a little plug.
Just rebuilt it.
Millions of people who need
it's just my
designer.
name, my actual name. People call me Frankie, but my actual name is Francesca Tortora, TORTOI.com.
Great.
So that's me, and if you go there, it should be quite obvious that I'm a very colourful person. I like colour and vibrancy and a lot of clean lines and white space, and a bit of fun. So yeah, I'm already working with clients who want that kind of style, and I'm increasingly finding my space.
Great.
In the
and we are in
world.
Your beautiful house at the moment, which totally has that about it. I can
good.
feel the designer in you coming right through. And the reason that I have come to you is that there's a little 5-month-old baby sleeping in the next room who probably couldn't have been left to fend for herself while you came to me.
Yeah.
And yeah, that kind of leads us nicely into chatting about the art of parenting as a freelancer. Maybe it's an art, maybe it's a science. I'm going to find out. So you've got 2 kids, is that right?
I've got a son who's 3.5 and a daughter who's 5 months.
And what were your thoughts before kind of having kids about freelancing with kids? Is it how you've expected it to be?
We were very I think we're generally a bit like this, me and Rob, is that we don't want to think about it too much, because if you start thinking about it, it just won't happen.
People say that about parenting in general, don't
they?
Yeah,
people say that about freelancing. People say that about there's a lot of once you get into this world of parent freelanceness, there's a lot of comparisons between having children. In so many ways, the parallels are quite weird.
Okay.
And one of those is we could have sat down and worked out a budget and how much I'd need to earn a month, and think about, or what if the cash flow was poor or whatever. We didn't even know how much the nursery might cost. We only just moved into this new flat 5 days before my due date because we were like, oh, it's fine, we can stay on our tiny one bed, and then realised that was probably a bad idea.
So is that when you had the second? Or
no, that's when we had the first.
Right, okay.
We realised quite late, we were like, yeah, we should probably move.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we didn't really like think about that particularly.
You can't necessarily plan it.
No, but then the other side of it is like the flip side of that coin is that part of me was like, oh, it'll be a dream, like, you know, part of my long-term goal was to go freelance so that I could have children and they would like lull about on the floor while I like make amazing work and whatever. And that's just so far from the truth. It's unbelievable.
So yeah, let's explore some of the kind of good and bad sides of being a freelancing parent. What do you think are the best things about freelancing when you're a parent? So
the number one thing for me, and I know that everybody I talk to, is flexibility. So currently the way a lot of people work is completely at odds with the way our childcare system works. We also live in a country with one of the most expensive childcare systems in the world. So a lot of people are paying for like really long days, barely seeing their kid. A lot of people are in miserable jobs and a bit annoyed about not being able to see their child at the same time. So for me, it's like the number one thing is that flexibility to be able to design to a certain extent my life around my children and the childcare that I want to pay for or can pay for, afford to pay for. Yes.
And see them.
Yeah, see them, but then also not. Like, this is one of the big debates amongst the freelancing parent community is like, yes, one of the massive perks is you, in theory, can see more of your children and on your own terms. Yeah. But there is a big, like, there seems to be two camps of like, one is people that work entirely around their children full stop and have no childcare whatsoever and just have like these endless patience as far as I can tell. And also have jobs that allow them to do that, things they can do from their phone or on the move, etc. Like writers, for example, can really like just crack out stuff as and when and pick it up and
when
put
the
it
kid's
down.
asleep,
right.
Then they write.
Yeah,
when the kid's awake.
And also they can do that on their, not on their phone necessarily, some people do, but like on a laptop, they're more portable. Whereas I'm quite like, I could do stuff on my laptop, but I'm quite grounded to my iMac because it's more powerful and
so
the setup
you need to be here
is a massive screen.
Yeah,
so like, as much as I'd like the idea of working entirely around my children, for me, I have to have childcare. Yeah, that's just not...
So at the moment, obviously, you've got one who's very small, who's still at home, but the other one is in childcare. Yeah. Even though we're sat here doing a podcast, which some people might think is not work, it's still kind of important. For you
totally.
That you do have that kind of space. Yeah. You just mentioned the freelancing parent community.
Right. Did I?
And I know that you've been sort of forging a bit of a path into that. Do you want to tell us about your project?
Yeah. So even when I was pregnant, actually, I had the seed of an idea about trying to meet more people or connect people that were similar to me because I got pregnant and was going to like, antenatal yoga or whatever. Yeah. And everybody I was meeting was in very nice salaried jobs with very nice maternity packages and HR departments where they had like fixed dates when they would go on maternity leave and come back again and their job was guaranteed and well, in some cases it's not, but that's another conversation. So like that's all fine, but they were asking me like, oh, how long are you taking off? When are you going off? And I just didn't know. And I very quickly needed to find people like me. Yeah. I was craving that quite quickly. And then when I was on maternity leave, I was doing some research around it and asking friends and bashing out ideas on my laptop. But this project didn't come to fruition until my son was actually about 18 months. Okay. It took that long. That's indicative of how long things can take when there are children in the mix.
And you have way fewer hours in the day
than
you normally would.
Yeah. So yeah, long and short of it is I launched this project called Doing It for the Kids, which is about bringing freelance and self-employed parents together to talk about the unique challenges of that kind of life. Yeah. And it was just a blog initially, and now it's a Facebook group.
But do you have meetups? Yeah, I do kind of thing in London.
Yeah, so I do meetups, like really informal networking with preschool kids and lots of biscuits.
So these are kind of events where, in theory, you are both caring for your child and doing something that constitutes work at the same time.
And fun, like it's also about one of the running themes with a lot of people, myself included, is that freelancers don't really ever turn off. I find it quite difficult to turn off.
Yeah, the boundaries between life and work are quite blurred, aren't they? And I guess by bringing kids into things like a networking event, you're blurring it even more. But you're also, like you say, you're designing your life. You're sort of saying, well, it's very difficult for me to have that kind of boundary at the moment. So maybe I'm not going to
have
it. And for
so many, like our identity is so tied up in our business and what we do, and so to have that be separate from your life is quite difficult. I'm sure.
I mean, one of the things that a lot of people I know who are parents talk about is how in those first few years of your kid's life, you sort of lose your identity a little bit, because you become, you know, you're constantly seen as a parent and nothing else. So actually, that's maybe a really nice way of being able to keep hold of that, which you can only do, not necessarily only as a freelancer, but only as someone who's got access to these kinds of circles and events where, you know, it's acknowledged that both of those things are unavoidably part of your life at that time. So,
and for me personally, going back to work literally brought me back to life. Like, having a baby was great, but I also had a horrible birth experience. We won't talk about that. Nobody needs to know about that.
That's for a different podcast.
And I'm pretty sure in hindsight I had postnatal depression. And going back to work was just like a light bulb moment where I was like, oh yeah, this is what I am and was.
And partly maybe it's because you've been pouring so much of your kind of effort and identity into it before, because that's what freelancers do, because we're sort of out there in the world doing something because we really want to do it, not just because
it's an extension of you as a person in a lot of cases. Like when you're a one-man or woman band, it is just an extension of your personality and what you're passionate about.
So it's quite kind of bereaving to suddenly find that you're not doing that thing because you've got this other all-consuming thing. If anyone is listening to this Properly Freelance as an actual series, they will be laughing at the fact that I just said I would like to have a family, because the last episode I did was on chronic illness, where I confessed that I can't be anywhere before 9 o'clock in the morning. So the idea of having to get up in the night, I mean, I was talking to someone I know last week who's got a 3-year-old, and she was telling me that for the first 2 years of his life he didn't sleep for more than 45 minutes at a time.
Yeah.
And I was just like,
I haven't been that person, but I know those people. Yeah.
I mean, I guess in that situation, the flexibility of not having to be somewhere at 9 o'clock in the mornings is probably a good thing, but I would also imagine that motivating yourself to keep going, which you have to as a freelancer,
you can very quickly say, do you know what, I didn't want to work today, and then you'll cash. I mean, the impact of that is immediate. And that can begin as soon as you even think about having a child. In that, the process of conceiving, I had a miscarriage, for example, lots of people do. Like, that whole process can even impact on your income without you even having a baby.
Because you're not going to get sick pay if you need time off for that.
If you need to go to hospital, or you're grieving, or you don't feel like working for whatever reason, there is no support for that. Even if you had critical illness cover or whatever, that's not going to that's not going to support you during that sort of experience.
Absolutely.
So even like when you're having the idea of starting a family, that can impact on your business quite significantly from the off.
I mean, I think that's relevant for me at the moment, in the sense that, you know, if we're going to have kids, we'll probably have them quite soon, and I'm already sort of thinking, oh, how does this impact on what projects I would commit to that are maybe quite long running or far into the future? How does that make me look if I commit to something I then can't deliver? And then at the same time, if I'm not taking work because I think we might have a kid, how does that make me feel if we then, you know, if that doesn't go to plan or whatever? That's, you know, it is quite all-consuming. With that stuff, I think, when you do start to think about it, and I think it's what you're saying before, you cannot plan, you have to let it go a little bit, actually. Yeah,
on the, like, trying to think ahead thing, the first time I just shut my business down completely and was like, bye clients, I'm back on, well, not a date specifically, but like in X month.
When you had the first kid and went on maternity leave.
And that works quite well. I did lose some clients inevitably, one of whom brought me in for a meeting when I was pregnant. I'm like, we want to support you through this process and we want to work with you more after you have your child. And then they totally disappeared. But the first time I was like, I'm going on leave now to have a kid. See you in X months. The second time around, that didn't happen. I worked to the bitter end for a couple of different reasons. But one of the ways I could do that was that I had 2 other freelancers that I knew I could hand over work to. So the majority of projects I wrapped up, one of which literally on the ward when I was induced, I was finishing it on my laptop. But the other stuff that didn't finish for whatever reason, I had 2 other people where I was like, here you go. And they were primed and ready. They were like, yeah, she's being induced today. So if this, you know, if she can't finish it, I'm taking it on. And that just helped so much.
I guess that's probably unique to certain types of work.
That won't work for everybody.
Because that works if you're doing the type of job that you can easily hand over. But it's definitely a perk. What's been your experience of so going on maternity leave, and how obviously that differs hugely for you as a freelancer? How have you navigated that, and what have you learned?
Well, the first thing you have to navigate is the system of getting your benefits to take the leave in the first place, which is a whole world of pain, which I would not want to
is it worth it
on anybody.
Because it's a very small amount of money you can get as a freelancer.
It so depends.
Anyway.
Some people message me and were like, oh my god, I've just got my maternity allowance, and it's like more than I was earning previously.
Right, okay.
Usually because they already have other children and work a day a week or whatever.
So maternity allowance is what you get if you are not on payroll and therefore can't get maternity pay.
Yes, so it will apply to some people who are employees and don't qualify for maternity pay from their employer. Right, sure. It's basically statutory maternity.
Yeah.
But for self-employed people and people who don't qualify via their employer.
And it's not the same amount if you're on a salary or working full-time that you would have been earning, but it's
just a fixed fee from the government, and it's linked to your national insurance contributions.
Sure.
Basically,
so make sure you've paid your national insurance.
Yeah, but then, so this is the crux of the issue. So in order to get it, you have to have your national insurance. Class 2 this is, not Class 4. Anyone know what Class 4 is for? Not me.
I can never remember which is which. Have we paid them? We probably paid them both.
Yeah, you definitely paid them. You're good. You're good. Yeah.
Okay, fine.
When you're a sole trader, you pay Class 2 and Class 4. Class 4 is some like weird, just like, I think it's just a tax for being a sole trader, as far as I can tell.
Right.
I once asked HMRC what it's for, and they were like, yeah, I don't really know. Great. So maternity allowance is linked to Class 2 national insurance, which basically means you qualify for all your benefits if that's up to date, including maternity allowance. Mm-hmm. You fill out a form, you submit it. You need like a certificate from your midwife that says, yes, this person is having a baby and they're due on this date. And you send that off, and then currently, this will change hopefully, because lots of people, including a lady called Olga Fitzroy, is campaigning for them to change the system.
Right.
But currently, they will just offer you by default £27 a week.
That's really not much.
Yes, because the assumption is you haven't paid your Class 2 national insurance. They don't give you the benefit of the doubt. They just give you £27 a week and say, this is based on...
They assume you haven't.
Yeah, they do. Because it's complicated in that...
disappointing.
The way you currently pay your Class 2 is you pay it through self-assessment at the end, so at the end of the financial year.
Which means that you probably haven't paid it yet,
so everyone
because they haven't asked you for it
yet.
Yes.
So depending on when you have your baby, everyone's in some sort of debt in terms of their Class 2.
Oh, man,
so they'll send you a letter that sounds really scary when you get it, because it's like, you're going to get £27 a week, and you're like, what? I cannot live on that.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and then you'll hopefully get another letter that says, we've spoken to HMRC and you just need to pay usually about £30 worth of national insurance.
So like to catch up.
Exactly.
Because you haven't done your tax return yet, or you haven't paid right up to the actual due date.
So you need to plug that hole of Class 2, which is literally usually about £30.
So that must be a problem that is very unique to freelancers.
Yes.
And if only they just change that default letter to say, don't worry, but
yes,
it will all be fine.
Yes, or tell you what's going to happen next. Although I do think they are getting better at that, because I rang them last week to try and tell them when I was going back to work. There were more options on the phone that there weren't before about that letter that says £27 a week. They're clearly aware that it's scary.
Because I think, I did hear something about this problem, and I think it's partly because they changed the way that you pay the Class 2, because it used to be, you used to pay it weekly, didn't you?
Yeah.
And then they changed it to yearly. So it's probably a problem that's only been around for a shortish time.
Correct, and they are working to rectify it. But in the meantime, it's a bit of a shambles, and they're quite slow at processing them.
Great.
That's
my
number one
really good insight to know.
Number one tip is apply the day you're allowed to apply, which I think is at 28 weeks.
Right.
Send your letter
because it will take time for it to come through.
And chase them, like shamelessly ring them up and be like, have you got my letter? Send it recorded delivery.
Yeah. And then have you had, how have you decided at what point to tell them that you're working again? Because presumably there's a bit of a kind of decision that you have to make there about, well, how much, because you only get the maternity allowance while you are not earning anything at all, is that right?
No, well,
or can you earn a little bit?
This is the grey area. As far as I understand it, it's not about how much money you earn. You could earn loads of money passively and they wouldn't mind.
Right.
You could earn money through your business and it without doing the work, and that wouldn't be an issue. I believe it's the actual doing the work that they don't want you to do. They want you to take the time off, I think.
Oh, that's so confusing. Because how do they know if you did the work or not?
Well, that's a good question which nobody seems to be able to answer.
Right.
So the crux of it is, while you're claiming your MA you're entitled to 10 keeping in touch days, which is the same as if you're an employed person.
But can you earn money for those?
Yes, you can.
Oh, okay, fine. So that's, for a lot of people, that might be enough actually to,
depending on what you do, that
bring
can
in
be
a little
enough.
bit of income and be a realistic amount of work.
The issue with that rule is that according to HMRC or DWP, I can't, both, whatever, according to the government, sending one work email, if you only sent one work email a day, that would constitute a day's work.
So you have to do all the work on the same
Correct.
day.
So you have to like plan.
You can't spread 8 hours over 8 days, which is probably what you would like to do now that you've got a small screaming
how the system
thing in your face.
That's not how the system works. And I discovered yesterday, this has changed recently, but once you reach your 8th keeping in touch day, you ring them and say, I've done my 8 days, I'm anticipating to have finished my 10 days by X date, and then they'll shut it off for you, and you go back to work.
So it's probably worth just knowing the system a little bit, isn't it, and knowing how best to navigate that system, whatever that might mean to you.
Yes,
there are probably
just
ways and means around a lot of these things
that have already been through it, and it's changing all the time. That's part of the issue. It's like even my experience in the past 6 months feels like it's already moving.
And it's
hopefully in a better direction.
Different to the first time.
Yeah.
Around,
totally different. When I applied with my son, I literally sent the letter, and then 2 weeks later, it's like, yes, you will get the full £148 for the full 39 weeks from X date, and that was it.
Right. So right now is not the best time, probably.
They're in this teething period where it's a bit messy.
Yeah.
And hopefully that will change. And hopefully, as I say, people are campaigning about those kit day rules and trying to change that.
That's going to have to gain momentum because there's more and more people freelancing, and that's in the news all the time. There's like so many more people are self-employed.
Literally every day, and a lot of that, sadly, is to do with maternity discrimination.
Well, there's a few other campaigns that I've seen that are sort of in Parliament at the moment as well, aren't there?
There's one about paternity pay for self-employed dads.
Yes, and shared paternity, shared
SPL.
Parental leave,
and
all of those things, which are probably very complex kettles of fish that we maybe can't get too far into, unless there's any other things of that nature that you've experienced that you think are...
The only thing worth talking about with you in this context is if you are a dad or are going to become a dad and you're self-employed, you're freelance, you don't qualify for anything currently, and that's worth thinking about.
Yeah. That's very...
I mean, it's rubbish.
That's very crap for gender equality, actually, isn't it?
It's awful.
Because it means that... So, I don't know what your setup is, but my setup is that I'm self-employed, my husband is employed.
Yeah.
So, that's kind of great for us. It works that way around. He also gets a very good shared parental leave package from his employer. So, he could, if we have kids, he could take 3 months full pay.
What?
I know.
Amazing.
That would come out of my maternity allowance that amount of time, but it's a very small sacrifice.
That's a no-brainer.
For we could like go travelling or all these great ideas of what we could do. But it's, to an extent, as a freelancer, I've always sort of said to him, I don't want to be reliant on your secure salary or whatever. I think you should be allowed to go freelance if you want to. That's not an impossibility for in our future. He might want to do that. But I guess on this particular issue, there's a massive incentive for the setup to remain as it is. Or, I mean, obviously, some people might think that maybe I should get a proper job. But
none of it's proper job terminology.
Oh, yeah, sorry, a traditional payroll job. But yeah, there's definitely an incentive, a financial incentive for him not to go freelance at this time, which, I have a little bit of guilt about, I guess. I wouldn't stop him if he decided he was going to do that, but I do think it would influence our decision as to how and when to go about having a family, because it's not equal, basically.
One of the big issues for our generation of women and men, to be fair, because they're a part of the whole baby making thing, is that we've been sold this idea that we can have it all and equality is in existence and our men are woke and whatever else. But actually, I don't want to be like the bearer of bad news, but when you have children, it's not that the people around you are stopping you from doing that, but the system is set up currently still very much in a traditional sense, and you find yourself falling into those roles. Some people don't and are breaking down barriers and proving that we can all live how we want to live.
But it's still a battle.
It's a complete uphill battle. Yeah, totally.
And
the fact that there isn't any paid leave for self-employed dads is a prime example of that. What does that tell you about how the government thinks? What the government thinks about who should be looking after the kids?
Because they don't need to be able to look after kids, and therefore you have to.
Yes, and so it's little things like that when you have children, you're like, oh, okay, we're not there yet.
Well, I mean, this is it, isn't it? Like equality around gender roles and childcare is a massive, long battle. But when you're actually there in the moment of it, just in your own little family unit and having to make that decision, there's only so much you can make decisions based on how you'd like to change the world. You have to make decisions based on
surviving.
Yeah, surviving,
particularly when you work for yourself,
and being able to enjoy your family time. You can't make decisions that sort of screw you over for the sake of changing the future, but then not enjoy your own family and bringing them up and everything.
But a lot of people I speak to through doing it for the kids have that amazing, this is my dream, is that we'd both be self-employed and even possibly run a business, as in me and my husband, and possibly both run a business together. That would be amazing. And there are loads of people doing it, and they literally co-parent, and they literally can share the childcare between them. They barely have to pay for any childcare at all, because they can just give the baby from one person to another. I mean, there are things around planning your schedule and having shared diaries and knowing who's booked in for what when. It becomes a bit of a logistical operation.
I definitely wanted to ask you about that, actually, about childcare and how... So one of the things that I've heard people say is that it's quite difficult to book childcare on an ad hoc basis. It generally has to be quite regular. And I wonder if that makes it maybe more difficult to have this kind of idyllic, flexible freelancing life.
So you have a baby and think it's all going to be equal, and then you realise it's probably not. Similarly, you're like, oh, everyone's doing flexible working now. That's the buzzword. Therefore, childcare reflects that. No, it doesn't. The childcare system is so archaic. It's quite frustrating. So yeah, in terms of flexible options, we had this debate when we had my son. We even now opted for full 2 fixed days a week in a private nursery, which costs a bomb, FYI, particularly in London.
More than you can earn.
Oh, it's crazy. But a lot of freelancers I know, there are so many options that you could try. So there's the childminder type setup. So that's just another human being, often has their own kids. It's a lot more flexible, but then is a lot more unpredictable. So they might cancel because their kid's sick or whatever. There's a two-way process. Then there's the private nanny situation, but then you have to pay their national insurance, and they're technically an employee of yours. So that becomes a bit of a if you have a limited company, that might work.
Yeah, if you're already set up as an employer.
But if you're a sole trader, it's a bit of a faff, I imagine. I don't know, because I didn't go down that route. Then there are things like ad hoc babysitting. So there's increasingly a market for that. There's an app called Bubble Babysitting app where you can book childcare as and when you need it. The idea is they connect it with Facebook, so it's people recommended to you according to who you might know through your networks, rather than just random.
So you can maybe get a sort of reference through someone you trust or something.
And then there's lots of reviews from people that booked them before. And a lot of freelancers I know, writers particularly, tend to use that. If they've got a deadline and they just need a couple of hours, they'll get somebody around to be in the house with them while they look after their kids and they finish a job, not college. So there's that option. Then some people do childcare swaps. So freelancers get together in somebody's house, bring all the kids. A couple of people look after the kids while a couple of people work, and then you swap.
I think I've seen some things like that which are actually being advertised. They're sort of looking for more people to join who aren't necessarily within their own friendship circle.
Someone in my group was setting up something similar. There is something to bear in mind with that. There is a law around OFSTED.
If you start advertising a childcare service, you're inviting.
If there's any money exchanged or gifts exchanged, that's not cool. You need to be OFSTED registered, and you would get fined if you were found out for that. Potentially arrested. I don't know. And then even if you're not sharing money or gifts, if it's more than 2 hours at a time, according to OFSTED, you'd need to be registered. So. But that's
even if you live just a bunch of mates, essentially.
If you're friends, it's cool. As long as it's not for more than 2 hours at a time, and as long as you're all in the building together. So if you go to a cafe and leave your kid with your mate for 3 hours, that's technically childcare.
Technically, gosh, I wonder if they do have the resources to.
But the thing is, nobody really knows this. It's a bit of one of these hidden grey areas. And I only know about it because there was quite a high-profile case. I think quite a while ago now. Of these two women who were mates, and I think they were police officers, ironically, or something like that. Anyway, they left each of their kids with each other for half days while they went to work and swapped that arrangement. And then their neighbours dobbed them in, and they got arrested for it. But the law has changed since then. It's more friendly, but it's still, there are rules that you need to think about.
And also you need to be really nice to your neighbours.
So totally,
don't go do something horrible like that.
Yeah.
I mean, they've got too much time on their hands.
Right.
They're reporting.
Poking through the
people I mean, that's like, it's like community building, isn't it, as well?
Right.
To
think that 100 years ago that would be an issue. And but then the other flip side of it is it's about protecting the children ultimately. So I get that. What I'm trying to say is there are solutions that work like that. You just need to just check.
I also saw
the latest guidelines.
I also saw on your website that you've got a downloadable document with a list of co-working spaces.
That was one of the other options.
Childcare, which is fascinating because I did not know that such places existed.
Well, there aren't many, and they're pretty much 90% in London, unfortunately.
But you've documented them.
People
can download it. This is on the Doing It for the Kids site, which what's the
doingitforthekids.net. The .com had gone, but nobody seems to care, so it's fine.
And is it doing with a G or doing?
Doing with a G.
It's proper grammar.
Yeah.
Just checking.
Yeah. So I produced this download which lists all the current offers. So it's all co-working spaces and pop-ups as well. So some people pop up in a cafe, for example, or in somebody's house.
Yeah.
And they have people co-working and then somebody qualified looking after your kids for a set fee.
Yeah.
And there aren't many of them currently. I think there's 17 in that document. Despite it being a very niche subject, I've had quite a lot of downloads, and the people that have seen it are like, this is the future. Oh my god, why does this not exist in Harrogate or wherever they live? And increasingly, like you said earlier, more and more parents are becoming self-employed, starting their own businesses.
Yeah.
So that to me just seems,
hopefully,
give it 5 years, and I think that's going to be more and more
hopefully
normal.
More of them will emerge, and then it will be easier.
So there's one called Cuckoo's Nest in Farringdon, which is amazing, by the way.
Right.
It's incredible. Anyway, then
you're
opening.
You're lucky I haven't got many listeners because they won't all be booking it up.
Yeah. But they're opening another one, for example, I think in Shoreditch. I'm not sure.
Okay.
So they're already branching out.
Yeah. Okay. So that might become known, and then something you can find more easily. Yeah.
I just feel like the way things are going, there's going to be more and more demand for it, and therefore there'll be more and more offers.
Yeah. I mean, on the whole cost side of things, something that somebody said to me recently, and I don't think this was a freelancer, just a working parent. We were talking about how there is, like you say, this kind of pressure really to, get back to work, be gender equal and all of that. But actually with childcare costs, especially before your kid is entitled to any free childcare or before they go to school, it's not maybe that realistic to sort of financially justify you going back to work or going back a lot. But maybe you still can justify it, even if you're losing money or only then earning £5 an hour or whatever, you maybe can justify it because it gives you back a bit of your identity and keeps you in touch with your industry and gives you an outlet for you're planning for the future basically by keeping in touch in that way. And I think that's probably an individual decision for everyone to make, but actually hearing that, really I found that quite comforting, because I, looking at the numbers, I just cannot see how it would really ever pay off to be in work at the point where I had a child who didn't get any free childcare. It just seems like,
so we're having this conversation literally
ridiculous
at the moment.
Yeah.
And basically I've got to 5 months, like I did with my son. It was about 6 months with him, and I was like, I need to work now, Rob. I really need to work now,
because you want to do the
my god,
not because it will be
so much. I just need to work. Like I can't. My brain is slowly shutting down. I'm getting increasingly claustrophobic. I need to do something with it.
You need to communicate with people that speak in words.
Right. The law changed, I think, 2 years ago. Two things. If your child is over 2 and you're on certain benefits, I think universal credit or one other, you qualify for 20 hours free childcare a week. And then all kids aged 3 and over qualify for 33 hours. Yeah, so we're having this conversation about, can we afford, because we've got 2 now, so can we afford to have 2 children in childcare? So my son goes to school in September. Yes.
Free childcare.
Yeah, and he's currently under the 30 hours, so we're not paying that much for him at the moment.
Yeah.
But if we were to put them both in for 2 days a week from next month or whenever I'm going back, it would be like £1,050 a month.
Wow.
Which is insane.
That's like more than my mortgage.
Right, exactly. There you go. And yes, dear listener, I'm in London, so this is an extreme example. It won't cost you that much elsewhere, hopefully. So yeah, we're having that conversation about, should I just go back to work and try and work around her entirely and just do it in nap times and when I can get work done? Or do we suck it up and try between us to cover that cost so I can have that time for myself?
Yeah.
We're concluding I probably need to have that time for myself. And a bit like with my son, we might run a slight deficit or just make things just break even. But he knows that I'm happier. I will be happier as a result. I know that I'm at that stage where I need to do it.
Yeah, and it is temporary, isn't it? Like even within another few years, both of them will be at school.
Yes.
So it's that thing of kind of, it's probably quite easy to, wallow in it and be like, oh God, this is awful. How have I got myself into this situation? But at the end of the day, whatever you decide to do, whether you kind of, have that identity crisis for a longer period of time or have, a really worsened financial situation for a while, it is a few years out of your whole career.
A lot of women don't work for that reason, for that period while they're preschoolers or until they get the 33 hours because they literally can't afford to or because they're only that small for that long and they want to enjoy it. That all depends on like lots of things, one of which is your personality as a human. The other is your children's personality and like whether they sleep or not.
Whether you like them or not.
Like
how much time do I want to spend with
how
this
difficult they are or challenging they are.
Because childcare costs the same regardless of whether you have a perfect child or a difficult child. So there's to a degree.
But there's like you as a person, there's your children and what they're like, and then there's the type of work that you do. So like it may be that you can outsource your business for a while, or you can shut it down completely for a while and it won't suffer as a result. You can pick it up in 3 years' time or however long. But in my case, if I was to do that, people would just forget I exist and I wouldn't have any clients and I'd have to spend a long time rebuilding.
Building it up from scratch.
So there are so many factors at play and a lot of those things are completely unpredictable and you don't know how you're going to feel about those things or what that kid's going to be like or how your birth's going to be or how you're going to feel about being a stay-at-home parent or not. Or
until you do it.
Exactly. This is what I'm saying about the planning thing earlier. It's like, yes, you can think about it and I would recommend doing a budget, FYI, which I didn't do.
Did you do one retrospectively?
Not really, still in denial. But yeah, like thinking about those things and just being flexible about how you might feel. And things like private nurseries, you often have to be on a waiting list 6 months in advance. So it's worth getting on those lists, even if you're not going to use it.
Sure.
Stuff like that. But it's tough. It's like such a mix of unknowns, but that's just parenting. And equally freelancing. Like you don't know how much work's going to come in, whether everything will dry up, whether you lose clients because suddenly they're like, oh, she's flaky because she's got a kid. You don't know. You just don't know.
So actually what is unexpectedly great about this conversation is that you've kind of highlighted how if you enjoy freelancing and you're kind of good at managing all those different variables,
you'll probably be a great parent.
Great. Brilliant. I don't need to worry about them not being able to get up before
it's just the two things combined can be a bit like overwhelming.
So our closing section is called From the Ridiculous to the Sublime.
Nice.
And not coined by me, coined by one of my previous guests. And the first question in this section is, what is the most ridiculous or annoying thing, Frankie, that you have done or experienced this week because of being a freelancer?
So the thing that comes immediately to mind is I tried to ring HMRC yesterday to tell them I was going back to work.
Oh, yes.
So that they didn't need to pay me my benefits anymore. She was like, no, ring me when you get to your 8th keeping in touch day. And I was like, but I know when I want to go back to work. She's like, no, ring us again. I was like, okay.
You're not allowed to tell us this yet.
Right.
It's too soon.
Yeah. I was like, okay, I'll call next week then. Bizarre. I found the whole thing bizarre. I mean, really they're encouraging you to use those days and whatever. But at the same time, I was like, but I know.
Anyway. So that's just another little reminder you've got to put in your diary to do that thing again.
Yes. Call them on the 8th day.
Wow, do not call them before.
Like, I didn't know that. It doesn't say that anywhere. Bizarre. It doesn't say you have to take your keeping in touch days.
Was it a nice Geordie in the HMRC call centre? I quite like phoning them.
She was not Geordie. I think
not
she's Yorkshire.
Oh,
possibly.
okay. Maybe
she's very nice.
She's me.
Oh yeah, she's very nice, but weird conversation. Anyway.
Funny. My ridiculous thing for this week is that I have to acknowledge that even though I've been trying to be really upfront and had various conversations and done a whole podcast about how you set your prices and, you know, knowing your worth, I still have the fear of mentioning prices in a client meeting, like the very first meeting. I had one this week.
As in a face-to-face? Or
it was a face-to-face, yeah. I've started branching out recently from kind of one field of work into a sort of sideline, if you like, in copywriting. And this is bringing with it more a different type of face-to-face initial client meeting that I've never really experienced before. And I have realised that I cannot tell somebody how much I want to charge them in that meeting. So any tips on this? Is something that you have to do?
Actually.
How do you do it? Do you not do it in that meeting?
Well,
because I just emailed afterwards. We had this lovely meeting where it was all smiles and loveliness, and then afterwards I was like,
they didn't ask
how much
you?
I charge. No, they didn't ask either.
Because I have a lot of clients that would just be like, so how much is it? And then you're like...
Yeah, I mean, if they had, I guess I would just have to do it.
Yeah.
But obviously, I have this sort of deep down fear that I will blurt out something that's not as much as I really would need to charge, or that I'll say it and then I'll say, but I'm flexible.
Yeah, totally.
Or, you know,
follow up with, oh, but we can negotiate.
Because you're trying to read their face.
Yeah, that's quite hard. My tips would be, well, A, you're good at your job. You know that you're good at your job.
Yeah.
And whatever you think you should be charging, you probably should be charging more for a start.
Well, yes, this is definitely true.
And whatever you are charging, you should have the confidence to say it. I've got to a point where this is my 7th year, and I'm like, no, Frankie, none of this. Like, I mean, wait, 2 things. One is that if they're a charity, or I'm friends with them, or I know their situation, and I want to do them a deal, fine.
Yeah.
But I'm getting much more ruthless about this is my rate. I've just put my rates up again after my 2nd baby because I've now potentially got a £1,000 childcare bill to cover. So I'm like, no, screw it, that's happening. Yeah. I'm this much. I'm this much a day. And I'm being quite upfront about that myself without waiting for them to ask me now. And then I feel more in control of the situation and more empowered.
Do you wait till the end of the meeting, or do you? Because I sort of wondered if maybe what I should have said was, I'm going to tell you this at the start, and then I'm going to tell you what a great job I'm going to do, and therefore then you've got more time to process the information and for me to justify it.
So this is for a copywriting gig. Yes.
Yeah.
No. Okay.
Yeah, that's the main thing, which might be. Yeah.
So I mean, I don't know because I'm not a copywriter. But I would try and let them know vaguely, if not my hourly rate or my day rate, vaguely how much it's going to cost before I even have that meeting. Yeah, otherwise, this is another thing about having children, sideline. But when you have kids, you have X number of hours a week without them. And I get a lot of like, oh, can we meet to talk about this? And I'm like, no, mate, we can't.
No time.
Like,
I'm either doing the work or I'm not.
Yeah. So like, what's your budget? Or here's how much I think this is going to cost. Are you still interested? Yeah. And if they're then still interested, I'll have a Skype or a phone conversation with them. I'm not going to trek across London for an hour for somebody to have a coffee who doesn't tell me what their brief is or how much money they've got. It's just not. I might have done that 4 years ago, but no more. Yeah. So I'd be more proactive myself about going, no, this is how much.
Before, that's a nice idea.
And then you don't have to worry about it.
Yeah, you still don't have to do the face reading thing, which is just so hard.
So even if you told them what your hourly rate is, for example, then when you have the meeting, discover what it is they actually need, then you have a much more better idea at the end. Like, then you can go, oh, well, X, X, Y, Z. Or do you know what? You push back and you say, well, based on our conversation, I'm going to go away and think about that and send you a quote when I get home. You don't have to answer that question if you're not comfortable. And then you're under pressure to go, oh, read the face. Yeah, exactly. And I've definitely done that once before. I was like, yeah, that obviously you want to know that, but I'm going to go away and think about that first.
Yeah. Oh yeah, you absolutely
in my own time.
Not be pushed into it, don't you?
And I also did I'm doing a lot of work around my feelings about money at the moment. Which sounds really woo-woo, but like I've definitely had a lot of hang-ups. Part of the thing I'm doing at the moment is this co-mentoring thing I mentioned before we were recording, where I'm doing a thing with a friend, the guy I'm doing the podcast with. Yeah. We chat once a month about our businesses. He has a massive side project about being freelance. It's literally called Being Freelance.
Great.
And I have a massive side project doing it for the kids. Yeah. So we've both got these crazy side projects and freelance life and children. Yeah, so we have this monthly chat, and as a result of that, he's a bit further down well, he's not in time, but he's earning more money than I am.
Yeah.
And I was talking to him about my rates and my website and blah, blah, blah. And he's like, well, I said, oh, I'm going to put it up to X an hour. And he's like, no, put it up to blah. And I was like, yes, Steve, this is what I need. I need somebody to like believe in me. He's like, yeah, you're good enough. You're totally good enough. You could charge more than that if you wanted to.
Yeah.
But you have to push for it.
Know your worth.
Yeah. And to have somebody to literally tell you that makes such a difference.
Yeah. Who's maybe already charging that.
Right. And the rest.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know, but
absolutely. Great. Love it. That's lovely. Thank you. That helps me out with my ridiculous thing. Hopefully it won't keep happening. I'm going to do my sublime thing and ask you for yours. So my best thing this week about freelancing was actually yesterday that I got to sort of help out one of my co-workers. So I work in a co-working space in Brixton.
What's it called?
Well, it was called Impact Hub Brixton.
Oh, yeah.
And it is now called Impact Brixton. And it's been, the co-working space has supported the making of the podcast. So if anyone's been sort of looking for their website and stuff, it's been going through a bit of a transition of leadership, and for slightly complicated administrative reasons, it's had to change its name. So it's now called Impact Brixton. And yeah, I had a great conversation with somebody there yesterday, kind of very much a sort of mentoring type conversation. We just went for a coffee. It was really, really nice. And we were sort of helping each other with ideas around content generation. And then it just so happened that I was sat opposite her at our desks in the space, and I sort of overheard a bit of a, not crisis, but a bit of a, oh God, how are we going to do this at the last minute type of phone call. She's supposed to be having a day off today, and this thing had come in. And unfortunately, she has a PA who unfortunately was also not able to work today, and they've got a document that they really need to get off somewhere. So having overheard that conversation, I was just able to go, hey, I need some work this week. Let me do that for you. And so that's what I'm off to do this afternoon, is to do some heroic proofreading, which is great because, you know, it's work for me, and just felt really nice to be able to help someone out and kind of have a bit of freelancer solidarity and earn some money.
Yeah.
After spending my morning not earning money, but, you know, having a lovely
That's one of the joys of co-working spaces. They're just amazing.
Yeah, I absolutely love
I still get gigs through, I was in co-working space for like 3 years, but I left about 3 years when my son was born.
Yeah, sure.
And I still get gigs through people that I met there.
Yeah, well, this is what's helping me really to get started in a slightly different area as the sideline. Is there's so many people there that need, you know, everybody needs copy. So
this is it. Everyone needs a designer as well. So like, your network that you get through something like that.
And there's nothing that quite matches like actually people knowing that they will be able to have a face-to-face conversation with you because you're just there anyway. So it's the closest thing you get to being in a traditional office environment, but it's even better in a sense because they're not your boss. They're just someone who, you know, you can have a chat with, and then if you want to work for them, you can. So yeah, that's my top thing for this week. What has been your best thing about freelancing this week?
It's not freelance related technically because I'm still doing maternity leave, so I'm only allowed my 10 keeping in touch days.
Oh right, yeah.
And
I don't want to dump you in it.
Barely done anything this week.
It'd be really unlucky if one of our 3 listeners was HMRC. I'd be really unlucky.
But 3 listeners, how dare you?
No, we've got about 50.
Manifest.
Right.
Yeah, what was I going to say? Oh, I washed my hair. Which actually, as a freelancer, full stop, can be quite tricky.
It looks very nice.
Thank you. I washed my hair this morning. Yeah. It's drying into the puff ball that it should be.
So you can't, you can't do that when your office is more than 3 meters from your bathroom, can you?
And I have a child attached to my body at all times.
Yeah.
So yeah, it feels good.
Yeah. So you're freelancing while looking beautiful with wonderful hair, even though you're in the house on your own.
Yeah.
And, well, I mean, your little baby daughter's
If somebody does want
to
Skype call me today, bring it.
That's so true. Yeah. Do you ever say, my video's not working. Sorry, my camera's not working. To hide the fact that you're actually.
When I do a lot of work with parents now who are also freelancers.
Yeah.
And a lot of the time, the first conversation is, let's do it on Skype. Great. Do you want video or not? And most of the time, we're like, nah. We're both like have an equal understanding that we're not up for that today.
Yeah, yeah.
There you go.
You can't always look your best. I mean, I can't always look my best just in life. I can't imagine how I would want to look my best with so little sleep and so little time to groom. So, well, congratulations on washing your hair.
Thank you.
A beautiful way to end. Thank you so much, Frankie. That's been such a great conversation. And by some miracle, your baby daughter is still asleep.
Yeah.
How long has she been asleep?
She's still alive.
She's good. We've got the baby daughter. She's still alive. We're going to go check on her, make sure she's
still
all
asleep.
good.
Well, she went down Yeah, an hour and a half ago. That's about right.
Great. So we're due for her to wake up very soon.
Yes.
So we will say goodbye. Yeah, check out Frankie's website, doingitforthekids.net.
Correct. Well done.
Brilliant. And thanks for listening. Bye.
Bye.
You've been listening to Properly Freelance with Jenny Elborn, and my guest was Frankie Tortora. So that's it. That's the end of series 1. Massive thank you to all of my guests that I've had throughout the series, and also to Sarah Weiler for my music and to Richard Gallant for my artwork. Do get in touch, send me your freelancing stories, your ridiculouses, your sublimes. I would love to hear from you, or you can tweet me at properfreelance. Bye! We love the government.
We do, yay! Let's not talk about Brexit. It
hasn't come up at all, actually.
I know, amazing.
Yeah. And by the time this goes out, I'm guessing
it'll be...
Do you know, this is probably going to go out pretty much very close to Brexit Day. God. So, I mean, we should probably... I'm not going to do any predictions or anything. I listened to a few podcasts that were recorded before the referendum and then went out after it, and they were horrific because everyone just assumed things would be fine and rosy. People might not be listening to this because there might have been some kind of apocalypse.
True.
Or, you know.
Yeah. What do they call it at the millennium? The bug.
The bug. Yeah, the Brexit bug.
It's coming.
Might have landed.
Are you stockpiling Heinz baked beans?